There's a lab there that's creating dinosaurs.
It's all fun and games. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I want a dinosaur, all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and then you grow it,
Yeah.
and then what about when it
Yeah.
grows into some monster?
Yeah.
It starts smashing up the entire lab. And
I think this is what they meant with the safety considerations for the electric. It all sounds like Abdulkarim popping out and doing a madness. If you know the value of what it is that you're chasing, it will be insignificant, any obstacle that comes your way. You're so desperate to achieve that. You're going to do anything it takes, inshallah. Really don't place these limits on yourself. Don't place these arbitrary limits that society has ingrained into you.
So yeah, I gave some lectures on the philosophy of human nature and look at a camel and identify different features. Writing tens, if not hundreds of pages about the detailed anatomy of a camel.
Welcome to StriveMed podcast. We have your two hosts, Dr. Anam,
Dr. Farah.
and here with our special friend from university. We spent 7 years with him, nothing but extremely great memories. This is an incredible person, Dr. Abdulkarim Ismail, junior doctor in Leicester and lecturer in Cambridge, and so much more. I'm so excited to show you all about Dr. Abdulkarim. Welcome to the podcast.
My pleasure to be here. Jazakallah for inviting me, guys.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much for coming.
Alhamdulillah.
How's everything going?
At the moment, good, alhamdulillah. Yeah, just well, F1's coming to an end, so I think we've got a lot more confidence, very comfortable in our roles, and so getting used to having a lot more kind of outside activities again, which is really good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Honestly, like, to think that now you're a junior doctor, and just to go back to, you know, the days when we first met,
Yeah.
and all of the journey that we've been on, the self-development which has taken place, something amazing to reflect on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both on a personal level and also on a academic professional level, we've well, comparing ourselves to when we first met, I think we're very functioning adults at the moment, or I'd like to think, and so yeah, it'd be nice to share some of those memories, but also reflections and going forward as well, some advice that we can all take together.
What's your current rotations at the moment?
My current rotation, so I'm on Obs and Gynae at the moment. I've completed Gen Surg first and cardiology second, and I'm going on to public health, neonatology and oncology last.
Yeah.
So yeah, a very niche specialties that, but that's part of the reason why I chose to apply for this set of jobs, is because I'm really interested in oncology. I think it's one of the few hospital medicine specialties that I'd like to consider. And also public health is very kind of politics heavy. There's a lot of kind of there's a huge legal aspect to it as well, which I think would suit my my preferences.
Yeah, it's interesting because with AK, I can, like, in terms of the rotations he has for FY2, those are rotations that I'd say are perfect for him. It's very, even though it's niche, that's the AK thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of the. I think there were just like that. Well, there were three versions of it in different orders, but that was the only kind of job of that description in the LNR deanery, which is why I ranked it first, because well, all the other jobs had fantastic components to it, but this is the one that I felt, like you said, reflects me and my personality most, and what I thought I'd enjoy most as well.
That's amazing, brother. Obviously, you know, the field in which we work in, it deals with a very delicate topic. Obviously, the topic and the subject of human sickness, dealing with human lives at a time when they're perhaps at their most vulnerable time. Did you have like a wake-up moment as soon as you entered the field of medicine that just gave you a reminder of all of these factors, you know, the reality of, you know, what exactly it is that we're working with, the fragility of life?
You mean like after I started working?
Yeah. What was that one moment when you started working, and then it really hits you that, okay, this is serious now?
I think there was a few times, I think for most of us as well, I don't know if you've had the same experience, that these experiences happen to you when you're on your on-calls or when you're on your night shifts and you're on your own. And the level of responsibility that you have then compared to when you have your senior staff around, other juniors around, is much more significant. For me, I've had a few cases where after I've got some patient feedback as well during those experiences, where people are at kind of the brink of their level of challenge that they can tolerate, and so there's a few cases that I can recall where you've been bleeped to go and review a patient, and you're basically responsible totally for the care of this patient now, because your registrar's in theatre or your SHO's in A&E, and it's just you are the senior doctor, and you are responsible for everything that's going to take place with this patient. And so kind of working through the systems that we've been given at university, I think the confidence that you have afterwards in your plan was what kind of gave me that realization where I don't know, I felt like I did a good job, not to be arrogant or anything about it, but it's the fact that you feel that you've done justice to that patient, you've done justice to what they deserve to expect from their healthcare that they are being provided. And so having just completed everything in a systematic manner, I think that's what gives me the most satisfaction. For me as well, one small thing that I like to do for all of my patients is when they're going home and they're being discharged and I've done the letter, I like to go and give the letter to them myself and sit down with them and answer any questions, explain the letter to them, and then see them on their way. And I feel like that's one thing that I've seen doesn't happen very often in the hospital I work at, but it's something that makes a huge difference to the quality of the care the patient at least deems that they've received at the placement.
That's very interesting. I don't think that happens in any hospital. Not just the hospital you work at, but yeah. That's a very good point, to be fair, that you mentioned, and it sort of touches upon what Zaid was mentioning, which was treating the patient, not the illness.
Yeah.
I mean, these are human beings in front of you at the end of the day, and not just I feel like as medical professionals, over time you get into the habit of just treating the illness itself rather than providing the holistic care for the patient and empathizing and all of these other stuff that you get taught throughout medical school that we don't really implement as doctors. So before we get on to, obviously we've already touched a bit about your foundation training, your life as a doctor. We want to take a step back and really where it all started off. Born and bred in Leicester.
I was born in Leicester, raised there. I'm very proud of Leicester. As people who know me are aware, I'm always celebrating its praises. But then went to college there, then applied to various universities. And interestingly, I didn't get the university of my choice, which was Leicester. I wanted to stay at home, not just for financial reasons, which is a huge part of it, but just because I felt like I was comfortable in where I was, and so I wouldn't have to overcome as many challenges as I anticipated before being able to kind of perform at my optimal performance. But of course, I have no regrets now. Going to Barts was arguably the greatest thing that could have happened to me in retrospect, and objectively speaking as well. What I've been able to achieve because of the way that the Barts curriculum is structured is unlike anything that, for example, my colleagues at other universities have reported to me that they've been able to achieve.
I mean, it's no doubt to me at all that Abdulkarim brought his optimal performance at Barts. That's not even a question.
We'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that for sure. So, did you always want to do medicine, or something kind of fell into?
I had a lot of difficulty choosing which subject to choose at university because it was very strange, but I enjoy every subject that I studied at school, and so I wanted to study every subject as well. There was a phase I went through where I was really keen on applying for English literature, history as well as a subject that I've always loved. And again, any type of engineering, I think I would have performed very well in, but why I came to medicine was, I think it was 2 years before applying, I realized that every subject is quite specific and restricted, whereas how comprehensive the medicine syllabus is one of the, if not the main thing that drew me to it as a degree. Just the level of detail that you can study, and also the opportunities that you have to pursue other degrees and other kind of sort of interdisciplinary subjects as well. Medicine overlaps as an applied science very much with chemistry, with biochemistry, with genetics, and very easily. But also things like history, ethics, law. These all have a huge role to play in medicine, as we discovered in our medical training. And so just the possibilities that the medical degree provided to me, rather than just going into one specific vocation and that's focusing on that, which I would have found amazing, but this gave me an avenue to kind of approach my degree in a way that I can study all of the subjects is what I wanted to, well, as close to studying as many subjects as I could, according to my original preferences.
Yeah, that's solid. Now, thinking about, obviously, I'm going to take you a bit more, like, I'm going to go back again and just continue discussing your journey into medicine and even throughout medical school. But I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, like going into finishing your foundation year 1 training now at the moment, would you have made the same choice looking back?
Yeah. So, with all honesty, and I think the degree was amazing. I don't think I could have done a better degree. Having done other degrees, I found that the medical degree was the most comprehensive of them all, the one that I enjoyed the most in terms of learning content, the one that gave me the most skills to function in society to the level where you can kind of make a significant difference to the lives of other people. But the job itself, as an F1, very challenging. The limitations that you have in terms of managing your rota, in terms of practical aspects. The job itself I found fantastic. I found that in general you're very well supported by seniors. The structure that is created is one where there's quite a lot of camaraderie between doctors in particular, but also amongst the medical professionals. But the aspects of not being able to control your rota, there's also financial aspects, not so heavy, but of course you could be earning a lot more elsewhere with the degrees that you have achieved, and so that can feel. I honestly admit that I felt a bit shortchanged when starting work coming from university, where you have control over your time, you're also exploring subjects, you're learning a lot as well, and then you come to work and you're not being challenged mentally a lot. You're being challenged socially, but on a personal level, there's a lot of challenges. Interpersonal relationships, for example, dealing with stress, dealing with rota coordinators, or any type of kind of hindrance to what you want to do with your own time is quite a challenge. There are ways to overcome it, and I think going through the year, I think I've become a lot more confident at just managing my own time, and I think that was the main challenge that I faced during work is just having control over my own time.
Lack of flexibility.
Absolutely,
100%. And I believe as soon as you start F1, one thing that you need to really, really learn very, very quickly, which you're going to need as key skill, is interpersonal skills, as you mentioned, dealing with people. That's all you're doing, whether you're dealing with patients or dealing with colleagues. Right, so it's true.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it can be a big shock, as soon as you enter that, when you're so used to having all of that flexibility and all of these things. But then again, on this, on the same note, medicine is a field where you have so many different options. We know the different options that Abdulkarim explored prior to university, which he's still doing on the side as well. And so you can literally end up, like I've given presentations on this as well, you can end up as a doctor in space. You can end up as a doctor in the sea. You can end up on the sports pitches.
With medicine you can do anything. That's a fact.
You can do anything,
and it's because of mainly, you can even, if you wanted to, after completing the degree, you could easily get into any other role because of that transferable skills that it provides, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, like I said, the degree itself is amazing. But before you get to that stage where you're able to have a career and the flexibility over your work-life balance that you've been describing, there's a period of F1, F2, which is a challenge. But you also learn a lot in terms of you grow and develop significantly during that period, and a lot of transferable skills to take forward once you have your ideal career in the future.
So you mentioned that you applied to various universities. The one you wanted was Leicester. Obviously that's the place you wanted to stay, your home. But then you got into Barts and London. So what was it like for your first, let's say, year or two in Whitechapel area, Tower Hamlets, in London, in a city London? How was that change from Leicester to London? How was that environment?
To be honest, the change itself I didn't find too significant. I think that the socioeconomic demographic of Leicester is very similar to East London. There's a lot of ethnic diversity. There's a lot of kind of inter-society tolerance. Very cohesive environment. Very supportive environment as well. Especially coming to the university with not knowing anyone here, but then developing friends very quickly based on kind of shared interests and shared values. Also with senior staff members, very supportive, a lot of engaging conversations, made you feel very welcome, and I think that was definitely a very pleasant experience that I found in Barts. But the city itself, the primary reason why I applied to Barts itself, there were two reasons actually. One was the history of the medical school, which I'd enjoyed reading about quite significantly, and I think my interviewers are probably bored of me talking about during my interview.
Clearly worked though.
I mean, but yeah, the history itself. So it's very overwhelming at certain points, just being in the locations that I've been reading about. It's almost as though like the same feeling as meeting your heroes, so to speak, but without the negative connotations of that phrase. But also being in the city, London, I think one of the things I enjoyed most about being in Bath is just the walks, and that's what I miss the most. Like, you can have nice countryside walks anywhere in the country. It's glorious scenery in Leicestershire, but the walks that I used to have in London, just walking through central London, Tower Bridge, etc., Tower of London, St Paul's, were one of my favourites, walking that way. But also eastwards towards City Airport, I used to enjoy walking that, and then upwards towards the Lee Valley was amazing as well, and then to Canary Wharf. Like, there's just so many walking locations. I used to revise most of the time whilst walking, just because there were so many amazing locations, and that was one of the highlights for me of my whole university time, just having really amazing places to walk around. But also food is very convenient, especially coming from Muslim family, Muslim culture. It's very important to have a nice range of food, but also halal food is very important. So that was perfect about East London. And then also transport. I mean, it's unfortunate that the Elizabeth line was completed after I left, but I mean, I'm glad for people who are at Barts right now. It's a huge convenience.
Most definitely. You know, that makes me think about something very interesting. Is that we had a diverse range of friends, right?
Yeah.
All from different environments. Some of them came from Manchester.
Yeah.
I remember our brother from Manchester. He desperately wanted to get into Manchester Uni. It didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
Our brother from Newcastle, he wanted to get in there. It didn't work out for him. But all of them, after the 6 years had done, they said they wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And this just takes us back to like trusting the grand plan, because the wisdoms of everything, all the hardships that you go through in life at one point in time, they may not be apparent there and then. But then the wisdoms, they become more and more clear to you as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also have, obviously, our StriveMed. We help people to get into medicine. We help them with their exams, with their personal statement interview. A lot of them, they message us, they contact us by phone as well. They're so stressed. Oh, I didn't get any offers this time around. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to go abroad? Am I going to have to do a, for example, graduate entry program? All of these different things. But really, it takes that maturity and to trust the plan, and all the challenges that are there in your path are there for a reason.
Yeah, trust the plan, trust the process, trust Allah, trust God. Yeah, that's the most important thing. I agree.
And you won't realize a lot of the time until quite late on the wisdom inside the challenges that you went through at the time. I didn't appreciate the fact that I didn't get into Leicester until 5-6 years afterwards. I think we might discuss it later on. But after certain opportunities presented themselves to me, in that I was able to pursue certain degrees with scholarships that I would not have had the opportunity. I was not even thinking of doing an intercalated degree if I went to Leicester, just because I wanted to finish as quickly as possible. And then the reason why I decided to do intercalated degree was because in London it's a very common thing. It's very easy to achieve, and it was a path that I was sort of led down anyway, which is
so for a lot of the viewers, they won't know Abdulkarim personally as much as we know him, and one thing I'd like to say is that this particular brother is nothing short of a genius. I've got his CV open in front of me, which he kindly offered to provide. I actually sort of basically persuaded him to send it. But I'm absolutely befuddled at some of the things on here. I literally, I'm shocked, to be honest with you. But I'm only going to touch on a few, and obviously you've already alluded to is your intercalated degree. So could you tell us a bit more about what your intercalated degree was, where you did it, and some of the things you got involved in during that year?
So I did my BSc at Imperial in biomedical engineering. And the reason why I chose the Imperial course, there's many reasons, but primarily is because, like I said, I wanted to study every subject before coming to uni. So this allowed me to pursue mathematics, electronics, and programming. The course itself has a lot of weight on computational medicine, which is something that I'd not really had much experience in, and so I wanted to kind of explore that avenue as well. So I didn't do much medicine that year, but I mean, the degree itself was very comprehensive, and it sort of led on to my master's degree that I did in 4th and 5th year, because the research project that I did was creating a force measurement device. So going from a background where I'd not done no electronics and programming to then producing a sensor that can detect the bite force of ants. It was the smallest bite force sensor that had ever been created ever.
That's great.
So we got a prize for that, which is what part of the prize was that they'd fund a master's degree for you. So it was either in a engineering science at Imperial or a humanities subject at LSE. So that's what led to being able to do a master's as well, which again, my master's was in philosophy of science and economics, and again, completely different to medicine, but fascinating subjects that allow you to explore the principles and methods and sort of history of different subjects within the empirical sciences, and also argumentative structures of logic and just any of the formal sciences as well. And so I felt like that kind of gave me a comprehensive background to studying knowledge and the theory of knowledge in general. But one thing that I would like to mention that I think Inam touched on previously is that each one of these applications, like my BSc applications, for example, medical applications, even my applications for my PhD, these are the amount of times that I applied is very significantly disproportionate to the amount of offers that I got. And so I think I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys, but overall, throughout the past 10 years or so, I think I've made around 16, 17 applications to different universities for various courses. And of those, I got probably 4 or 5. So there's an element of trust, and there's also an element of just persisting as well, and just keep maintaining what you want to do and having a backup plan. And this used to be something that I used to find quite difficult in general, not coming from school and not really having experienced failure in the traditional sense, but coping with failure, dealing with failure, and sort of knowing how to move on, the methods that you should be using to kind of get your mental health in order as well, in those different periods. And so that's something that people from Barts helped me with a lot as well, seniors at Barts, and a lot of respect to them for guiding me along that path.
Just to break it down a bit.
Of course.
We'll touch on this last point that you mentioned in a bit. I wanted to, so for example, so you did all of this whilst doing your medical degree?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing you also mentioned was the importance of perseverance, and that's something that we really, really also try to push with our students. It's very important because that's a skill you're going to need throughout before you even apply to medicine. You're going to need that because not everywhere you apply to is actually going to accept you. And also even after that, once persevering throughout all the various exams and assessments you're going to have in your long journey 6-year medical course, and even after that as a foundation trainee, and then obviously onto whatever career path you decide to go down. So where did you do this master's?
I did at LSE.
You did at LSE, okay. And you did, so initially, did you do that whilst doing your medical degree on, like, in terms of simultaneously, or was it like the intercalated where you took a year out?
So I did that simultaneously with my medical degree in 4th and 5th year. The reason why I was able to do it is because the lectures and seminars were scheduled outside of university hours. So that was very important, because we have a commitment with the university,
100%.
Queen Mary, to have your dedicated 9 to 5 Monday to Friday clear for them. So my seminar, the course was, part of the reason why I chose the course there was because the structure was first of all, it was offered to me to go there, but so at that specific department, it was because it was compatible with medicine.
It complemented your medical degree.
Absolutely.
They allowed you were able to do the course out of hours, aside from the time you were meant to be in placement and lectures, etc. So you didn't practically miss anything. And this comes back to another key skill, which is the importance of maintaining. I mean, you are extremely busy as a medical student, obviously, which we'll go into a bit later, more of the projects that you also went into. But you maintained that, and you achieved high grades in medical school, alhamdulillah, throughout all of the other projects you were doing. So this is another skill that, you know, about organizing your time and being efficient, which we'll inshallah come on to as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually very interesting, the fact that you did them both side by side. And this goes for students everywhere. A lot of them are not actually achieving their full potential. If you think about the fact that you did a degree alongside doing medicine, whereas most of the colleagues in our cohort were filling up their entire time just with medicine. And it's, obviously we all know the grades we got, alhamdulillah, all of us, especially Abdulkarim, like, alhamdulillah, you know, extremely good performance. But people don't actually understand the true capabilities, and a lot of them are shortchanging themselves, you know, unfortunately. I remember once, you know, just to give one example, but how you can prioritize your time and you can do things much faster than at a much faster pace than you see everyone else doing it. I remember we had that one set of lectures in Barbican 1 week. We did that whole in 1 day.
Absolutely. I remember that.
We did that all of it in 1 day. We took a bit of an unconventional route. We sat down together, but we completely rinsed it all in 1 day, and then we had the whole week just to do essentially whatever we wanted, really.
Absolutely. We did that with Cancer Week as well in second went through all the lectures, important content, and just summarized it all in a very efficient way.
I think there's something I wanted to ask you about that in particular as well. With regards to having the mental strength to kind of go your own way. Because you're doing something, and this was similar, you know, to our situation as well, and the projects and the things which we were working on. Not many people were operating in that way. So what gave you the confidence in order to kind of go your own way in that regard, take a different route, and not feel that FOMO? You know, for example, you see everyone else studying on medicine, but you know that, look, I've done enough. I've done what I need to do. You know, inshallah, I'm going to go in. The exam's going to be fine. There's going to be no issues. So how did you do that?
I think the important thing for me is, and I think this is applicable to many people, is you need to identify what you enjoy and identify what you see value in. For me, I've always found value in knowledge, because knowledge is the way that, personally as a Muslim, I can appreciate the greatness of God, of Allah. Now, in the Quran, many times, I think, not to go off topic, but from my experience at least, the majority of the Quran, in terms of its focus on demonstrating the proof and the qualities of God, is on arguments by design. Many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to contemplate on different parts of the creation, different aspects of creation. To give one small example, Allah says, have to the nearest meaning, to the nearest effect, that have you not looked at the camel and how it was created? There's one aspect where someone can say, I can look at a camel and identify different features. There's another aspect where you can, where an individual, which was what I was striving to do, is writing tens, if not hundreds of pages about the detailed anatomy of a camel and how its genetic functioning, how it develops over time, how the camel species has. There's so much about just one to be read a whole Wikipedia page on camels, basically. But there's that aspect, but that not just for that one small example, but to everything about the science within the creation, within yourselves, within the development of an embryo. There's one aspect where you can just describe 3 stages and write 3 bullet points, or you can write a whole detailed book on embryology. And so just that level of knowledge, if the person who can write a book on embryology, or the person that can write when we're told to go back and see how the people of the past were and how the outcome of them as well, like knowing the historical narrative in a very significant degree of detail allows you to achieve what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting you in these to do in these exercises. That's to appreciate His greatness and to appreciate the awe that we're supposed to feel when appreciating the nature of God, or at least to an extent. You can never go the full how much is deserved, but I feel like that's what I've been able to do by studying and gaining knowledge. And so for me, that's what I value and that's what I enjoy. And so whether or not I'm doing a degree in the evenings or not, I'm going to be reading something. I might as well get a degree out of it. So it goes that way rather than this is an effort for me and I need to put it into my schedule. It's enjoyment, and it's something that I find enjoyment, pleasure, value, and some kind of peace in as well. It's not stress for me. In the traditional sense, it's still stressful because there's deadlines and there's components to it which you don't like. But overall, it's something you'll be doing nonetheless. And so in terms of fitting it into your schedule and just, it's something that I value. And whenever you value something, you can always compromise something for something else. Compromise, I don't know, if you maybe your TV time for reading a book. There's always a huge collection of books on my to-read list just because that's something I enjoy. But again, that doesn't apply to everyone. Everyone has different things that they value and enjoy, and different ways that they can contribute to not only to their own personal development, but to the development of others around them. And so that's definitely the main thing that I would say, is just identifying what you enjoy and find value in, and then everything else should fit around that, rather than trying to force it, to force an activity on yourself that you don't really see much value in.
Yeah, that's a very, very important concept, actually, especially that concept that you just mentioned about finding the value in something. And there's a statement, I mean, I can't remember in its entirety, but it's the meaning is something along the lines of, if whatever you value, if you value something, if you really, really do value something, then the sacrifices you would make for that thing, it wouldn't seem, like sacrifices. It wouldn't be much stress upon you to, if for example, if you really enjoy, let's say, working out, the pain of working out won't feel like pain to you. You will enjoy that entire process because you value that thing. So it's very important, and it's something that is needed in a lot of, whatever path you want to go down. If you want to achieve greatness, you want to achieve success, that's something that you're going to have to take upon yourself to adopt that concept.
And identifying that value is arguably the most important thing to do in your daily activities, because there will be always aspects to it that you don't enjoy, and there will always be parts that are means to an end. But if that end is worth it, if it's justified, then that can motivate you to take it through to completion, which is what I had to regularly remind myself of during various aspects of my professional career.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful point you made. Exactly. So if you know the value of what it is that you're chasing, it will be insignificant, any obstacle that comes your way. You're so desperate to achieve that. You're going to do anything it takes, inshallah. And the next thing is that really refreshing your intention, understanding why it is that you actually did it. And for you to give that kind of an answer, it shows that you've really, really done that throughout the process of your educational career multiple times. Because there's challenges which come throughout the process, but then you just take a step back and you think, why is it that I'm doing this? What is the long-term goal? And then you ask yourself a little deeper as well. What is the long-term goal behind that? Why exactly am I doing this? And it all comes down to exactly what you said. SubhanAllah. It's absolutely beautiful.
I remember the statement now in Arabic. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's "Man arafa ma yatlub hana alayhi ma yabdhul," right? Man arafa ma yatlub. He who knows, or he who knows what he seeks and the value of what he seeks, then whatever sacrifices he makes will seem insignificant to him. It's a very, very important concept.
That's beautiful. Barakallahu feek. And so developing that knowledge, obviously, to be able to gain a good appreciation of the creation, and obviously therefore understand, the creator, and Allah is the one who fashioned all of these things. Developing that level of knowledge to a level at which you were able to also publish books as well. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Could you please tell us more about this this journey which you had as well when it came to publishing, and how you made that transition, that big step?
So one thing that I've noticed, as it's also one of my motivating factors, I guess, is that the history of scholarship from our heritage, from Muslim heritage, is very strong in the past. Whereas nowadays, it's not so much. For whatever political, economic, and sociological reasons that may be, that's for, I guess, historians to debate. But the fact that remains that the majority of scholarship nowadays is in the West, which is amazing. That the output that they produce is mind-blowing. And very useful for human civilization. But the fact remains that when people think of Islamic countries in general, it's more a negative view than a positive view. Whereas historically, for the majority of our modern religions' existence, it's not been the case. And so what I kind of wanted to do was to demonstrate that one can be a higher functioning Muslim scholar, which inshallah I'm hoping to become at some point. But you can it's compatible to be a Muslim and an academic in the same light, and not just an academic, to be an academic at the forefront of academia. One thing that I noticed, you can feel quite lonely as a Muslim, as an ethnic minority in many academic circles. I've been to a few conferences where, for example, not that these things determine the value of a human being, but that I've been the only ethnic minority there, or I've been the only Muslim there who's going to pray by myself, and it just feels to me that this maybe necessarily doesn't have to be the case, where we can be discussing deep philosophical issues, but also and contributing to the corpus of literature, but also to maintain our religious principles, which, if not are compatible, but they drive a lot of academic scholarship, and have done in the past. And so to that end, developing kind of publications, that there's a few publications that I've written, but the majority of them focus on medical humanities. It's just humanities is an area where I feel that there's not much contribution in terms of scholarship from people who happen to be Muslim, and so that's what I identified. And so hopefully trying to bring some of our heritage, our not just theoretical heritage, but also modern knowledge that we've inherited from Western civilizations. But Western civilizations have inherited part of that from Eastern civilizations, and this distinction between East and West that is quite predominant in the world today doesn't necessarily need to be. It's just an arbitrary distinction, isn't it? Islam is, if not more Western than most religions. It's been an integral part of European history, contributing to the development of modern civilizations. And so that's the reason why I go into publications and the subject of some of the publications that I've done.
How has Islam contributed to modern? I'm just curious to know.
To modern scholarship, or to
modern civilizations. You mentioned that. Just mentioned now that Islam's contributed to a lot of the, for example, Western modern civilizations that, as we know it, Islam's contributed to it. But how has it?
Absolutely. So the focus of Islam on number one, to seeking knowledge, appreciating the creation of Allah, and to kind of understand and formulate useful knowledge to be applied in medicine, engineering, etc., is philosophically what has driven many golden ages in Islamic science. Not to focus too much on the past, because it's the past, and we've got to focus on some of what we need to be working on right now. But the fact that this kind of philosophy has enabled two aspects of what people who were in Muslim countries generally did. Number one is to develop a multicultural society, which was what they did many times very well, at other times, as with most Europe parts of history, not so well. But during those times of exchange, they brought a lot of knowledge from India, from China, from more faraway places, codified it. They took a lot of the kind of ancient Greek and even Roman sources, preserved it, which was then kind of reintroduced back in the Renaissance period to Western Europe. That's one aspect, but also they didn't just kind of codify, they also produced a lot of new knowledge themselves. Many new medicine is a huge aspect to what Islamic heritage has provided, or what the Islamic world provided to modern medicine as kind of a stepping stone. Obviously, the things like the scientific method as well, where parts of it were developed in a Muslim culture, Muslim society. So these are some of the many things that they've provided, and engineering marvels. You can travel to the Muslim countries and see some of the greatest architectural monuments of their time. And so, yeah, this is some of the few things. But every society produces and contributes to kind of human civilization in their different ways. But it's not to forget in our modern age that the Muslim society has as well, which is very easy to forget given the current state of many parts of the Muslim world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that seeking knowledge and being academic is incompatible with being a Muslim. On the contrary, it's one of the just because few examples exist today, that doesn't mean that the examples of history should be forgotten about.
I mean, most definitely. It's clear from seeing the example that we have today in yourself, Abdulkarim, and all of the people we've spent time with throughout our university experience, and now as doctors as well, that, you know, staying true to your faith, staying true to your religious practice as a Muslim, if anything, your academic performance should be on steroids.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like, you can take things to the next level, very next level.
Yeah.
Because of what you're implementing, of course, it's so powerful. You know, you have the creator, sustainer of the heavens and the earth on your side as well. You can really take things from one height to the next and to the next.
Absolutely.
So speaking of that, obviously, and one of the things which we're very impressed by, mashallah, tabarakallah, may Allah aid you in success, is that you've actually taken this academia to, you know, one of the highest levels, in the sense that you're actually lecturing and teaching in Cambridge. And that started from a very young age, you know, from the age of 24 years old. You know, and at that age, like, we know what most of the people are doing, like it's nowhere near this. So what's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so again, it's one that is there's a lot of perseverance behind. So I actually started this for my medical elective. I wanted to go into university level teaching, so I needed a bit of experience. So I thought this elective is a perfect opportunity to achieve that. So I think I probably sent around 60, 70 emails to various people from different universities. I did a bit of research into what their background is to kind of make it seem like or show my interest, demonstrate my interest in their field, etc., so that they might take me on maybe as a student to then mentor me to give some lectures. Someone replied from Cambridge, which is amazing. And I guess he kind of read parts of my CV and thought, okay, this is quite compatible with what we were trying to achieve in the department. And so, yeah, I gave some lectures on the philosophy of human nature. So what is human nature and how this is, as an idea is developed over time, different attitudes towards it. It's something that, a topic that I found quite relevant to myself, in that it has aspects of medicine, ethics and law, but also philosophy of science. And so I thought that is a perfect subject for me. And so that's how it kind of started. And then obviously you give lectures, you hold seminars as well with the students, discussing. I think PBLs are really useful in that aspect. I've not been the greatest proponent of PBLs. You guys might remember
from Barts,
my various criticisms of the technique. But just being able to manage a group discussion was one of the things that maybe I could take from that and apply to these different scenarios. But yeah, hopefully the career in teaching will be continuing. So as part of my PhD, I have to do components that involve teaching undergrads. And once I've got that kind of that foundation, you can't really take on a professorship in this country without having a PhD. So that's one of the contributing factors to doing that. But like I said, it's knowing what you value and what you want to achieve, and then things become means to an end in general to achieving that.
For sure. What exactly are you lecturing in again?
So the lecturing in Department of Philosophy, so philosophy of human nature was generally the topic.
Essentially linked to your masters.
It's linked to my masters, yeah. Not linked to my BSc or it's not linked to many things, but it's something that I've quite enjoyed reading about. And
then just recently he was saying he has lack of time, rota coordinators, he's doing all of this. And there's a lot that you don't know.
There's a lot more that we haven't gone into.
A lot more we haven't gone into, man. So how does this work, man? F1 and lecturing, and the other things as well you were mentioning.
I don't lecture very often. For my PhD, we get study leave. That's something I arranged with the deanery beforehand. I think there's 9 days we get study leave, so I don't use that many. I don't take that many days off work for these purposes. I think there's around 16 days that I've used this year to kind of go attend seminars, conferences, etc. And then obviously annual leave here and there I use sometimes to facilitate teaching. You get paid for it, so it's worthwhile just taking a day off. The pay's better than F1 as well.
Bro, I want to get onto something before, because obviously we're slightly running out of time, but we're definitely going to have AK on again 100%.
No.
I just wanted to touch on your project in the US.
Okay.
In America.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Again, this is also part of elective. So of all the things I've studied, I enjoyed...
How many electives did you do, brother?
I did two. One was for fun and one was for academic purposes. Like the teaching one is useful overall, but this one I just did for fun. I love dinosaurs. I've been fascinated by dinosaurs. I recently watched the new Jurassic World movie and was inspired because I genuinely felt like quitting my career and just becoming a dinosaur. So this is there's a lab there that's creating dinosaurs. They are...
Where is it?
It's in Harvard. What they're doing right now is they're getting dinosaur embryos and they're reverse engineering chicken embryos, reverse engineering them to retain some of their dinosaur traits. So I just did some... It was a very basic lab experience, but just the fact that dinosaurs are being... I don't know if this is a topic that we wanted to bring up today, but the fact that dinosaurs are being developed and it's very fascinating for me. That's a personal... I know people have many ethical and moral considerations that they also are taking into account, but for me at least it's something that...
They're reverse engineering chicken embryos?
Yeah, to make...
So what's the progress with that? Obviously you were there for a couple weeks.
So what they've been able to produce around 40 embryos.
Okay.
None of them survive till birth, but they on average live around 4 to 8 weeks. Again, you appreciate the complexity of the environment that these embryos develop in, because any small variation can cause disastrous consequences, and so just them trying to manipulate the chemical environment of an embryo is something that you appreciate, the power and the ability of in daily life, where we have so many not just humans, every creature that's being developed and born as an embryo, and that whole process going through is just amazing. It's on its own. But that's what they've been doing so far. So 46, 48 weeks, around that's how long they live. But unfortunately none have survived till birth, so it's very long way before we have dinosaurs in a park.
So this is my deal with this.
Yeah.
It's all fun and games. Like, I want a dinosaur, I want that.
I
like how dinosaurs look.
And
then you grow it, and then what about when it grows into some monster and starts smashing up the entire lab and all sorts.
Absolutely, these are all important considerations to quote Ian Malcolm to the nearest meaning. But like we're becoming so obsessed as to whether we don't think about whether we should. There's lots of ethical considerations.
They always create movies, they always do movies about this sort of stuff. There's that whole plot, the crazy scientist goes into a lab, starts messing around, wants to create something, and then all of a sudden the thing starts eating him, and then now there's an entire plot to save the world from this monster that they created.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I think this is what they meant with the safety considerations for the election. It all sound like Abdulkarim popping out and doing a madness.
Yeah, no, but that's brilliant. Like, I wanted that to be out in the open, just so we can appreciate like the level of detail, and also like the amount of projects you've taken up upon, like whilst doing, whilst also doing your medical studies, and obviously throughout your medical training. And also wanted to discuss, just going back a bit with regards to before you're intercalated, you also had an opportunity to get involved in a different project.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us a bit more
There's
about?
a few competitions that I entered beforehand. One of them was the Zayed Future Energy Prize, which I made a proposal to them to. It was an added component to attach to a car automobile engine that basically used a novel chemical process to turn excess carbon dioxide back into fuel again. That project, I got reasonably far in the competition, but as in I was competing against like corporations, and it was I didn't really have a realistic working prototype. I had a kind of mock prototype that I made, but it was very basic, very rudimentary. But that was one of the things that I did at that time. But also there was another building design competition that I entered some of my own building designs in, based on it's actually based on actin myofibrils and the way that their strength is determined by their structure. And so I kind of used that as inspiration to kind of make some like mimic the biology of those into a design of a skyscraper to kind of withstand the necessary forces as it takes when building high. And so that was quite successful in that they really they valued my designs. There was a lot of discussion about taking it further. They wanted me to kind of do a degree in that field, but there was a lot of considerations to make at the time. And then there was some political events at the time as well that affected funding and
David Cameron.
Yes, we don't want to make any political statements here, but those were difficult times, so that eventually came to a close as well. But not that it didn't give me a lot of value from producing the project itself, a lot of useful professional contacts, and also and references for the future.
They were considering actually in terms of just to show how far it got. They were actually considering taking those building plans and stuff involved, right? So whereabouts were they planning to do it?
I don't think there was a location specifically planned. The designs were kind of fleshed out quite considerably. In that we even got like a working model as well to then put into various kind of chambers to test it out, and it was prototype using different materials as well, but then that's basically where it stopped. I don't think a location was really. It was the design itself that they were considering to then sell on to another kind of corporation. That was willing to build such a building with that level of office space. But then,
that's amazing, absolutely amazing. Just picture this really. The rest of the students are, after the school finishes, they're wondering which chicken shop to eat in. Chilling with which football pitch is available, all of these things.
Bro,
find Abdulkarim making dinosaurs, doing this, all sorts.
Bro, it's inspiring. And so we were a tight-knit group in medical school, right? There was about 9 of us, 8 of us, something along those lines. We obviously, Abdulkarim being part of that group, our close circle, he would tell us stuff like this, like I'm currently doing this. I believe him telling us this sort of stuff and seeing his performance in university was a big factor in pushing us ourselves and inspiring us to also go the extra mile. Most definitely. Because then you think to yourself, well, what am I doing? What am I really making use of my potential and my time and the position I'm in?
I think it worked both ways, to be honest, because there was a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of inspiration that I took from not just, for example, there's it's what is in your potential, isn't it? So there are people that, for example, they have parents who are unwell, and then they spend the majority of their time caring for them and their family. And so for in that level, that's probably the greatest thing that you could ever do in the service to your parents and your family. And if that occupies your time such that you don't have any time left for many other things, and that's an amazing feat in itself, because the amount of time you've dedicated is proof of your dedication to that end. And so there's always been many people that I've been inspired by at university, amongst our friend group and amongst you guys as well. There's different avenues that you can take your potential, and that could be on a personal level, it could be on just a local community level, it could be on for me it was just exploring a field that I thought that there was value in and enjoyment in, but of course that's just one example. There's many avenues that you can take your potential down. And so likewise is very inspiring to see not just the lifestyle approaches, but also just the end goals of many people that we surrounded ourselves with in university.
Most definitely. Absolutely amazing, brother. Just wanted to give you open the floor for you.
Yeah.
Is there any one advice for any up and coming academic, any student, anyone taking this path? What would you say to them?
One advice. That's very difficult, because I feel for me, there's two things that I think that are very important. Number one is to plan ahead. So for me, the time when I did this, I remember specifically my history teacher in year 7. He told me to sit down and said, think about what you want to do in the next 10 years. Just anything, any potential ideas, and more importantly, write down why you want to do it as well. So I think I spent that whole lesson just like, I had a whole A3 piece of paper, big paper, and it was just loads of diagrams, loads of potential routes. And then you can take that, and if it's far enough in advance, you can find opportunities, because I think that's the second aspect to it, is you can't do things by yourself. Like no knowledge is created in a vacuum, and no one is born knowledgeable. You need help, for one of a better phrase. You need to seek opportunities from people who know more than you, but also people who have more experience than you, but also people who know you better than yourself. And so like just identifying those people, identifying sources of information, identifying people who can help. And a lot of the time you will be let down on that process as well. You'll always meet obstacles, you'll always meet rejections, but it's just, if you value end enough, then you'll either modify your current plan, or you'll kind of determine another plan afterwards, if it's not compatible with opportunities that you have. And so there's a lot of effort that goes into organizing a career, and especially a career that you want to kind of it's completely new to you, but also something you want to develop and do extremely well. And so those are the two things, I guess, that just planning it well in advance, and just seeking a lot of advice, seeking a lot of knowledge from different people. So for me, it was obviously you have your parents, your family, your friends, who kind of have been surrounded by you and know you, and your strengths, your weaknesses, where you need to develop. But also at university, there's academics all around you. You have your head of year, you have your different lecturers, people that are researching in different areas that you're interested in, and more often than not, they're very welcoming and very happy for you to come and discuss things with you. And I think there comes a point where they get a bit annoyed with you asking them questions, but they're always happy to learn more, and you learn together. And I think that builds also a strong relationship.
Yeah, that's extremely important. You know, I mean, just to draw from what AK's just said, a few takeaway points that I've basically reflected on so far is the importance of perseverance. And other points I'd say is also the importance of mentorship, and that's something we try to provide at StriveMed. Is that mentorship is extremely important, as you mentioned, like having those seniors, having advice and input from those who have done it before, those who've traversed the same path that you're going to now. You're trying to, go forward and take on, and what it does is it saves you time, because I think there was a saying, I can't remember from who, but it's about, like, if you seek advice of those who have already traversed the path you want to embark on, you save lifetimes, because they just tell you the shortcut. They'll say, okay, this didn't work for me, you just go down this route A to Z, A to B, rather than going down A to C to D to whatever. You see what I mean? So it's important. I mean, mentorship is very, very important, especially if you want to, achieve success and greatness as well. So, and the last point I wanted to mention was something you've touched upon many times throughout the podcast is ensuring that you're not, you sort of don't get overcome with basically don't feel too much pressure and overburdened with regards to failure. Failure comes in life. You just have to accept rejection and failure. And there's another saying that I remember from a successful entrepreneur, and they mentioned that I haven't failed 100 times. I've figured out 100 ways of not doing a certain thing. You see what I mean? It's a mindset. It's a complete shift.
Yeah.
You don't look at something. You first of all you welcome rejection and you welcome failure, and you take it upon yourself to you don't fall into the same mistake, and you learn from it. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Most definitely. That mentorship is actually, as Zakaria rightly said, we tried to provide everyone with senior medics.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that you have someone in the position you want to be in.
Yeah.
You can literally contact them, and they will be, similar to your family, like there to help you every step of the way that you want.
Yeah.
And then the next one is to really don't place these limits on yourself. Don't place these arbitrary limits that society has ingrained into you. You can do so many different things, and I hope that we've illustrated just a few examples of those to you today.
Yeah.
From this discussion.
Yeah. Just to add on to that mentorship point, by the way, no, the mentor themselves I don't think they have any benefit in helping you whatsoever. You're the one who's going to benefit a lot from them helping you, right? Sometimes people want to, even us right now mentioning about StriveMed and our mentorship, you're going to benefit more than us. You can become more successful than your mentor themselves because they've given you that shortcut and that route to success. You can, with the amount of time you're saving, as we mentioned, the lifetime that you're saving, that amount of time you can put that energy and effort and time into something else, and you can surpass that mentor. So it's a no-brainer really, and you should just sometimes you will get those, as we mentioned, rejections and failures, and you will get that one or two mentor that will say I might not be able to have time for you right now. Just keep pushing. There's someone always out there that will be willing to help, and
when the opportunity comes, you need to grasp it, man.
Yeah,
you need to hold on to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Find us on www.strivemed.co.uk for any more help, academic support. Stay subscribed to the podcast, Instagram StriveMed.
Yeah, follow up. And for Abdulkarim, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Inshallah, we'll try and do another one. Try and have you on again. But if there's anyone out there that wants to wants to reach out to you for mentorship, or any questions they may have, where can they find you? Do you have an email address or?
I have an email address. I guess if they could email you and then you could forward it on to me.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah. So if anyone has any further questions for Abdulkarim or just wants to ask anything or wants his mentorship, I'm sure he's very, very busy, but he will try and help you in some way, shape or form. You can just reach out to us, and we will also we'll provide those details for you. You
can leave a comment as well. Whatever, we're more than happy to help. That's the end goal at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming on, bro.
We'll
do another one because there was a lot more that I wanted to touch on. I mean, we haven't touched on a lot more of his. It just shows you people watching this. Yeah, they're probably thinking, "Oh, that's it. We've discussed his entire." This brother, there's a lot more that he's done that we haven't even, touched on, not even mentioned. So, inshallah, we'll try and do another podcast with you. We can go into detail and also talk about various other topics that we have in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be maybe useful to go into specifics of how to get into different parts of the academic discipline, publications, research, teaching, etc. So
for sure. Inshallah. So until next time, inshallah, we'll meet again.